What if I told you that nobody and nothing can ever truly hurt you again? At first, this may sound like an impossible claim. After all, we've all experienced pain, whether it's from the loss of a loved one, betrayal by someone we trust, or even the crushing weight of our own fears. Life has its fair share of hardships, and it's easy to believe that we're at the mercy of the events that happen to us. But what if the root of our suffering doesn't lie in the world around us? What if it's not the external forces, the people, or the circumstances that hurt us the most, but how we perceive and respond to them? This is the central idea we're about to explore, that the true source of our suffering is not what happens to us, but how we interpret it. The way we view our struggles, the meaning we attach to them, and the narratives we create in our minds. These are the factors that shape our experience of pain. And the most unsettling question of all is, are we truly in control of how we perceive our lives? Or are we simply prisoners of are we truly in control of how we perceive our lives? Or are we simply prisoners of our own minds? In this documentary, we'll journey through the complexities of human perception, control, and suffering. Along the way, we'll challenge conventional beliefs and dive into the deep psychological, philosophical, and societal forces that shape how we experience the world. By the end, you might just find that the greatest power you possess lies in your ability to change how you see the world, and in turn, how you experience it. Suffering is one of the most universal experiences of human existence. Whether it's the pain of a broken heart, the anguish of losing a loved one, or the deep sorrow of facing personal failure, it seems as though suffering is woven into the very fabric of life. But what if suffering isn't something that happens to us? What if it's something we create? The Buddha, over 2,000 years ago, recognized that suffering is an intrinsic part of the human condition, but he also proposed a radical idea. Suffering doesn't come from external events. It comes from our attachment to things. In Buddhist philosophy, dukkha, or suffering, arises from our resistance to change and our attachment to the transient nature of life. Everything in this world is impermanent. We grow attached to people, things, and ideas, and when they inevitably change or disappear, we experience pain. Yet the Buddha teaches that this suffering can be alleviated by letting go of these attachments and accepting the impermanence of life. The source of suffering, then, is not the world, but our attachment to it. In the 20th century, Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, introduced a similarly profound idea in his book, Man's Search for Meaning. Frankl observed that the prisoners in Nazi concentration camps, despite enduring unimaginable suffering, responded to their circumstances in different ways. Some gave up, while others found meaning and purpose in their suffering. Frankl argued that while we may not be able to control the external events that cause us pain, we can control how we respond to them. Suffering, he suggests, is often magnified by our inability to find meaning in hardship, and it is only when we shift our perspective that we can transcend it. This shift in perspective leads us to a crucial insight. Suffering is not simply an external force acting upon us. It is often a product of how we choose to interpret our experiences. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is not. In many cases, it is perpetuated by our minds, shaped by societal expectations, cultural narratives, and personal beliefs about what is normal or acceptable. By understanding this, we begin to see how much power we truly have over our own suffering. The human experience is shaped not only by internal thoughts and perceptions, but also by the external forces that guide and manipulate those perceptions. While we often believe that we are in control of our lives, the truth is that many of us are subtly conditioned by societal norms, media, and authority structures in ways that limit our sense of agency. Michel Foucault's seminal work, Discipline and Punish, explores how modern society has moved from overt forms of control, such as physical punishment or imprisonment, to more insidious psychological forms of control. Foucault refers to this shift as the move from sovereign power to disciplinary power. In the past, control was visible and often brutal. The executioner's axe, the dungeon cell. But today, power is more subtle. It operates through norms, expectations, and institutions that shape behavior without the need for direct force. We internalize these norms, turning them into self-discipline. The result? We regulate our own actions without the need for external supervision. We follow the rules because we believe it is expected of us, not because we've been coerced into submission. In a similar vein, the infamous Stanford prison experiment, conducted by psychologist Philip Zimbardo, demonstrated how ordinary individuals could quickly slip into roles of power and submission within a controlled environment. Participants in the experiment were assigned roles as either guards or prisoners in a mock prison. The results were shocking. Those assigned to be guards began to exhibit abusive behaviors, while those assigned to be prisoners became passive and submissive. The experiment revealed just how easily people can be conditioned to accept authority and control, and how quickly they internalize these roles. So the question arises, how much of your life is truly yours to control? Are the choices you make genuinely yours, or are they influenced by invisible forces that have been planted in your psyche long before you ever had a say in them? From the moment we are born, we are taught what to value, how to behave, and what is acceptable in society. We learn to follow the rules, to seek approval, and to conform. Over time, these societal expectations become so deeply embedded that we may no longer question them. They dictate not only our behavior but our thoughts, desires, and beliefs. Yet even as we are conditioned by these external forces, we often don't recognize how they shape our lives. We assume that we have free will, but in reality, much of our behavior is dictated by norms, media, and authority figures. True freedom, then, isn't about rebellion against society, but about breaking free from the psychological chains that bind us. It is about recognizing the ways in which we have been conditioned to think and choosing to challenge those conditioned responses. The first step toward real freedom is realizing that you are not a passive recipient of these forces. You can break free from the cycle of conformity and victimhood by consciously choosing to reclaim your autonomy. Freedom, in this sense, is not the absence of external constraints, but the ability to choose how you respond to them. In today's world, we are constantly bombarded by information. From the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep, we are exposed to a never-ending stream of news, advertisements, social media posts, and opinions. This constant flow of information shapes the way we see the world. But here's the question. Are we controlling the information we consume, or is the information controlling us? The role of the media in shaping our perceptions of reality is profound, and often it is a manipulation. This manipulation isn't always overt. Sometimes it's subtle, invisible, but no less powerful. Throughout history, those in power have understood the importance of controlling the narrative. Take, for example, the use of media by Joseph Goebbels, Nazi Germany's Minister of Propaganda. Goebbels understood that the key to controlling a population wasn't through brute force, but through the manipulation of ideas and beliefs. His famous quote, "If you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it," highlights the essential role of media in shaping public opinion. During the Nazi regime, Goebbels and his propaganda machine used film, radio, and print to spread messages of fear, nationalism, and hatred. What they achieved wasn't just control over what people knew, but control over how people felt and thought. The public's perception of reality was molded in such a way that atrocities were justified. The media created a narrative that allowed for the dehumanization of others, and in doing so, it manipulated not just the facts, but the very consciousness of the people. Fast forward to today, and the media landscape has evolved, but the core mechanism remains largely the same. The methods of persuasion may be more sophisticated, but they still rely on shaping public perception. The difference now is that media outlets don't just inform, they actively create realities. From the sensationalized news reports that flood our screens to the targeted ads that seem to read our minds, media is omnipresent. And while this onslaught of information might seem like an overload of choice, it's actually a form of control. Consider the rise of social media. Platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram have become the new stages where public opinion is not only shaped, but also manipulated. Social media algorithms are designed to keep us engaged by showing us content that aligns with our existing beliefs and biases. This creates echo chambers, environments where we only encounter information that reinforces our views and shields us from opposing perspectives. The result is a divided society, where it becomes harder to discern truth from falsehood, and where our perceptions of reality are filtered through the lens of algorithms. But even outside the realm of social media, traditional media channels are equally guilty of shaping our perceptions. News outlets, whether they're on television, in print, or online, often present information in a way that is designed to elicit emotional responses. Sensationalism, fear-mongering, and selective reporting are common techniques used to stir outrage, which keeps us glued to the screen. The more emotional we are, the more likely we are to continue consuming, which in turn allows media companies to profit from our attention. So let's pause for a moment and ask, do you control the information you consume, or does it control you? When was the last time you truly questioned the information you were presented with? Do you ever stop to think about who benefits from the narratives you accept, and how those narratives shape your beliefs, your actions, and even your identity? The reality is that much of what we perceive as truth is crafted by forces beyond our control. We are often unaware of how our views are shaped by the media we consume. It's not just about being fed information. It's about being conditioned to accept a version of reality that benefits those in power. The news we watch, the advertisements we see, and the social media posts we scroll through are not neutral. They are curated to elicit responses that keep us engaged, fearful, and ultimately under control. By the end of this, you may find yourself questioning the very media you trust. What is the true agenda behind the content we consume daily? Who is benefiting from the narratives we're fed? And most importantly, can we ever truly be free from this manipulation of reality? Fear is one of the most powerful forces in human behavior. It can paralyze us, hold us back from achieving our potential, and even dictate the choices we make. But what if I told you that the fear you experience, whether it's the fear of failure, the fear of rejection, or even the fear of death, isn't always an external force? What if the greatest enemy you face is not outside of you, but within? At its core, fear is not just an emotional response to immediate danger. It's a psychological mechanism that is often self-generated. B.F. Skinner, one of the leading figures in behavioral psychology, conducted experiments that demonstrated how fear can be used to control behavior. In his famous experiments with rats and pigeons, Skinner showed how animals could be conditioned to avoid certain stimuli through the use of negative reinforcement. In other words, when an animal experienced fear or discomfort, it learned to avoid that stimulus in the future. This same mechanism operates within humans, where fear can shape our actions and reactions to life's challenges. However, fear is not only used by external forces to control behavior. Fear is often internalized and reinforced by our own thought patterns. Think about the things you fear most in life, whether it's not being good enough, losing someone you love, or the uncertainty of the future. These fears are often rooted in our beliefs about what might happen, not necessarily in reality. We imagine worst-case scenarios, catastrophize situations, and let our minds run wild with possibilities, most of which never come to pass. Yet we let these fears control us. We become paralyzed by them, trapped in a cycle of anxiety and avoidance. And the more we give in to these fears, the more they grow. It's a vicious loop, one that many of us unknowingly reinforce daily. But the power of fear doesn't just lie in how it operates within our minds. It also lies in how it is manipulated by external forces. Governments, corporations, and even media outlets understand that fear is a tool of control. From the way politicians use fear to rally support for war, to how advertising creates fear of inadequacy to sell products. Fear is constantly being weaponized to manipulate us. Consider how, in times of crisis, governments often use fear to justify measures that limit individual freedoms. Fear of terrorism, fear of pandemics, fear of economic collapse. These fears are amplified, often out of proportion to the actual threat, to gain public compliance. Similarly, corporations exploit our fears to sell us products that promise to make us feel safer, more secure, or more in control. Fear of missing out, fear of being left behind. These are powerful motivators that drive consumer behavior. The truth is, fear is often a self-imposed prison. It is not a tangible enemy outside of us, but a construct of our own minds, reinforced by societal expectations and external pressures. It keeps us from taking risks, from challenging the status quo, and from realizing our full potential. And the greatest trick fear ever played was making us believe that it was real. The truth is, fear is not an unstoppable force. It is an illusion, a shadow that looms only when we allow it to. By recognizing how fear operates within us, we can begin to dismantle it, piece by piece. We can take back control, not by eliminating fear, but by understanding its true nature, and choosing not to let it rule our lives. Throughout this exploration, we've seen how fear, suffering, and control are not just external forces, but internal mechanisms that shape our lives. We've examined how society conditions us to conform, how the media manipulates our perceptions, and how fear often holds us captive. But now, we reach a critical turning point. If these forces are not as powerful as we believe, how can we break free from them? How can we take back control and reclaim our autonomy? The first step toward freedom is understanding that we are not powerless. Our perception of reality is often shaped by the stories we tell ourselves, and by changing those stories, we can transform our experience of the world. Ancient wisdom and modern psychology both offer us tools to break free from the psychological prisons that we've built for ourselves. One of the most profound teachings on self-mastery comes from the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius. In his meditations, he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Marcus Aurelius recognized that while we cannot control the external world, we have absolute control over our inner lives. The key to freedom, he suggested, lies in our ability to change our reactions to the world, to shift our perceptions and beliefs. In many ways, modern psychology echoes this same idea. One of the most effective methods for breaking free from negative thought patterns is cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. CBT teaches us that our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors are interconnected, and that by changing our thoughts, we can change how we feel and act. When we start to recognize the automatic negative thoughts that lead to fear and suffering, we can challenge them. Are they true? Are they helpful? Often we find that the things we fear are exaggerated, unlikely, or entirely imagined. CBT encourages us to reframe these thoughts. For instance, when faced with a difficult situation, instead of thinking, "This is going to be disastrous, I'm not strong enough to handle it," we can shift our thinking to, "This is difficult, but I have faced challenges before, and I have the resources to handle this too." In doing so, we begin to transform fear into empowerment and suffering into an opportunity for growth. Alongside CBT, mindfulness practices are another powerful tool for reclaiming control. Mindfulness teaches us to be present in the moment, observing our thoughts without judgment, and detaching from the stories we tell ourselves. When we are caught in fear or anxiety, mindfulness allows us to step back and observe those emotions as temporary experiences, not permanent states of being. By practicing mindfulness, we realize that emotions like fear or anger are just passing waves, and we have the power to choose how we respond to them. But changing our internal dialogue is not just about challenging negative thoughts. It's also about reframing our experiences. When we encounter hardship or suffering, we often frame these moments as failures or punishments. However, what if we reframed them as opportunities? What if we saw every challenge as a chance to grow, to learn, and to become stronger? This idea isn't new. It aligns with the teachings of another Stoic philosopher, Epictetus, who believed that we cannot control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. He famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When we adopt this mindset, we stop seeing ourselves as victims of circumstance and start recognizing our own power to choose how we engage with the world. One of the most profound ways to shift our perception is to practice gratitude. In times of hardship, it's easy to focus on what we lack or what has been taken from us. But by practicing gratitude, we shift our focus to what we still have, what we've learned, and how far we've come. Gratitude helps us reframe suffering as part of the human experience, not something that defines us. It allows us to see that even in our darkest moments, there are lessons, growth, and strength. Finally, breaking the cycle of control and fear requires action. We cannot simply think our way out of suffering. We must also act in ways that align with our new understanding. This might mean setting boundaries with those who manipulate us, taking risks that challenge our fears, or stepping away from environments that reinforce our sense of helplessness. It means choosing to act, even when fear is present, knowing that our actions can reshape our reality. The ultimate message here is this: your greatest power lies in your ability to choose your perception. You are not a passive observer of life. You are an active participant. Every thought, every reaction, every choice is an opportunity to reclaim your freedom. The world around you may be chaotic, but you have the power to create peace within. Fear, suffering, and control may try to bind you, but they only have power if you allow them to. When you recognize that you are the one who determines how you experience the world, you are free. As we've journeyed through the complexities of suffering, fear, and control, one truth has become clear. Nobody and nothing can truly hurt you. Not because the world is kinder, but because you, at the core, control how you experience it. The forces that have shaped your perception of reality, whether external pressures or internal fears, lose their power the moment you recognize that you are the one who determines how you respond to them. External circumstances will always be unpredictable. People will disappoint you, the world will challenge you, and pain will be inevitable. But what if, instead of seeing these as forces beyond your control, you saw them as opportunities for growth, for transformation, for strength? What if you understood that the real power you possess is not in controlling the external world, but in how you choose to navigate it? You have the ability to shift your perception, to reframe your experiences, and to choose how you react. Your freedom lies in this choice. The chains that once seemed unbreakable, whether fear, suffering, or control, are only as strong as you allow them to be. So ask yourself, what would you do if you believed that you were completely free? If you truly understood that nothing outside you could dictate how you live, think, or feel, how would that change your life? The power has always been yours to claim. Now it's time to step into it.